Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here. And in today's video, going to be talking about the Week 5 Thursday Night Football Showdown slate on Draftkings. Got Week 5 kicking off on Thursday night with a pretty gross game, I'll be honest. Not one that I'm super excited to watch, but we got the Colts and the Broncos playing on Thursday night. We still got a showdown slate with $1 million up top. DraftKings continues to put out huge contests for these one-game slates. So we're going to talk through things like we normally do, go kind of from top to bottom and hit on all the playable options, all the guys that I do have interest in. I will say that it's a little tricky right now at the time I'm making this video. I normally try and put these videos up on Tuesday for the Thursday Night Football game, just so that way they're up on YouTube and have a lot of time for people to watch the video and to digest it. But we're waiting for some news on some of these backfields. Right now, Jonathan Taylor's questionable, did not practice on Tuesday, so I would say Taylor's kind of leaning more towards doubtful, but that'll be something we have to monitor heading up to Thursday night. Russell Wilson should be fine. He should be good to go. But Melvin Gordon got banged up as well last week, and obviously Denver's going to be without Javonte Williams too for the rest of the season. So that Denver backfield is going to be one we kind of have to monitor. Both running back situations in this game are ones we're going to have to talk about. But yeah, guys, we'll talk through this slate like we normally do, just real quick. Hit that like button if you guys do enjoy these showdown videos. If they do help you out, hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And also, if you are new here and you have not checked out PrizePicks, PrizePicks is actually the sponsor of this video. And you can sign up for PrizePicks using promo code NOAH. When you do sign up with my promo code, PrizePicks will match your first deposit up to $100. And if you're curious, PrizePicks is a player prop based DFS site, so it is really simple. You're just taking more or less on a player's projection. And PrizePicks does already have some projections posted for Thursday Night Football. They have projections posted for Sunday as well. They have a lot of stuff up already. I know a lot of the sports books don't even have props up yet, so if you want to take a look at some of PrizePicks early lines, see the lines they're putting up, you can compare their lines to like the other sports books whenever the other sports books put up their lines, and you can kind of make some selections that way if you would like. But definitely check out PrizePicks, guys. You guys should be playing over there. Make sure that when you sign up, use promo code NOAH. Get that deposit bonus when you do sign up. And if you guys do want to know some of my favorite plays for this Thursday night football game, I'll have that video posted. I'll have a PrizePicks video posted probably sometime on Wednesday. Again, I usually make these showdown videos on Tuesday, so sometime on Wednesday is when I'll post my PrizePicks video, giving out a couple plays that I'll be playing for this game. We did cash both of our plays for Monday Night Football for the Rams and 49ers game. So if you guys tailed those two picks on Monday night, should have made a little bit of money. Hopefully we can do it again on Thursday, cash our plays Thursday. But yeah, let's talk through this showdown slate. We're going to start off at the top and just kind of work our way down. So yeah, at the top right now with Jonathan Taylor, he is the most expensive option on the slate, but it's kind of to be determined if he plays this week. We did just get a report that Jonathan Taylor did have a boot on his left foot or his right foot. Yeah, his right lower leg, he was wearing a boot during Tuesday's practice. He did not obviously participate in Tuesday's practice, so that doesn't seem good for Jonathan Taylor to play this week. I mean, it is a short week for the Colts. Obviously they played on Sunday and Taylor got injured. I'm leaning towards Taylor being out, but if Taylor does play and there's no report of him being limited or anything, we know the massive role that Jonathan Taylor's going to have. We know how much volume he's going to get. I mean, last week, 21 touches, 24 touches, got 35 touches in week 1. Had a weird game against Jacksonville where they were trailing and they didn't put up any points. That was just a terrible game offensively for the Colts in general. But normally when the Colts are in games and it's somewhat of a competitive game, Jonathan Taylor is getting 20-plus touches. His floor is just so high. I know the ceiling, we haven't seen like a ton of massive ceiling games from Taylor outside of week 1, but that massive ceiling is always there for JT. So, of course, he's in play on the slate. It's just a matter of, his health. We'll have to monitor that heading up to Thursday. Then you got Michael Pittman at 10,600. Now, this is a pretty tough matchup. I will say the Broncos, they do have one of the better secondaries in the league. And in terms of, the wide receiver position, they're actually allowing the fewest fantasy points to wide receivers this year. They're only allowing 45 receptions, which is towards the bottom of the league. They're actually allowing the second fewest receiving yards to wideouts. So it's definitely a tough matchup for Pittman, but Pittman's going to get a ton of volume. He's already seen 28 targets through 3 games. He's averaging just over 9 targets per game. The volume's going to be there, and I think that's kind of what you're banking on for Michael Pittman. This matchup is one where I think it's going to be a little bit tougher for him to put up like a massive ceiling game, but he's going to get probably 8, 9, 10 targets. I could definitely see this being a game where the Colts do get behind. I think Denver will win this game pretty easily. This Colts offense has just not looked that good. I think if the Colts do win this game, it'll be because of their defense. I think it'll be like a low defensive scoring game kind of thing. I don't really see the Colts putting up a ton of points here, so Tough spot for Michael Pittman, but the volume's going to be there, which still puts him in play on the slate. If JT's fully healthy and he's 100%, then I think I would take JT over Pittman, just choosing between those two. But obviously on a one-game slate, both those guys are viable. Then we get to the quarterbacks. We got Russell Wilson at 10,400, and we got Matt Ryan at 9,600. Russell Wilson, not a great season so far, but he did look pretty solid last week and had by far his best fantasy game of the year. 27 DraftKings points, threw for 237 yards, 2 touchdowns. Also did have 29 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. Russell Wilson, he hasn't really shown that rushing upside that he used to have kind of, a couple years ago. So that dual threat ability, I don't know if that's really there anymore for Russell Wilson, but he's still got plenty of weapons in this Denver Broncos offense. He's got Courtland Sutton, he's got Jerry Jeudy. At 10,400, like on a showdown slate, I mean, Russell Wilson's going to project out as a very solid play. Quarterbacks are normally going to make the winning lineups. We did see, I think it was Monday night in that 49ers Rams game. I'm pretty sure neither quarterback were in the optimal lineup for that slate, which can happen at times, but I would say more times than not, one of the two quarterbacks is going to be a necessity. And I could definitely see this being a slate where Russell Wilson puts up 18, 20 DraftKings points and makes the optimal lineup. In this low-scoring game, I don't think the ceiling for Russell Wilson is massive. I'd be surprised if he went out there and put up 30 DraftKings points. But I think you're pretty safe to lock him in for at least 15, 16 DK points. That floor is just going to make him a safe cash game option. In tournaments, I still think he's viable as well. Now, Matt Ryan, on the other hand, he's not been great this season. He's been turning the ball over a lot. He's been taking a ton of sacks. Pretty sure he leads the league or towards the top of the league in terms of sacks allowed or times he's been sacked. He's already thrown 5 interceptions this season. It's not been great for Matt Ryan, but he's still been able to get it done for fantasy. I mean, he has scored over 20 DraftKings points in 2 out of their 4 games. Last week scored 22 DK points, threw for 356 yards. Again, this is a really tough matchup against a good Broncos defense, but I could definitely see this being a game where Matt Ryan just has to throw the ball 35, 40 times. I could see the Colts getting down here and just kind of being forced to throw. I think Russell Wilson definitely offers a higher floor and ceiling, but I don't hate Matt Ryan on this slate. I think he is viable. Normally, the quarterbacks are going to be solid plays, and I think Matt Ryan's a fine option. I don't think he's a must by any means. If I had to choose between one of the two quarterbacks, I do greatly prefer Russell Wilson. But Ryan still has a decent floor that will make him viable on this slate. But then we got Courtland Sutton at 9,400. I think Courtland Sutton looks like one of the better options on this slate. I think he's definitely too cheap just for the role that he has in this Denver offense, leading the team in targets so far this season, and leading the team in target share. Over a 28% target share this year. He's seen 21, 14, 35 targets through 4 games, so he's averaging almost 9 targets per game. The volume's going to be there for Courtland Sutton. It's not the best matchup. The Colts do have a good secondary. They've been really good at limiting opposing wideouts, allowing the 3rd fewest fantasy points to wide receivers this season, allowing the fewest receiving yards to wide receivers as well. Don't think it's a great spot by any means, but kind of similar to the Michael Pittman situation that we talked about earlier. You're just banking on the volume from Courtland Sutton. He's going to get at least probably 8 to 10 targets. He's been the number 1 option for Russell Wilson so far this season. He's a guy that offers plenty of big play upside. I think at 9,400, he is definitely too cheap on the slate. I was surprised to see there be such a big price gap between him and Michael Pittman. I was expecting those guys to be pretty closely priced. If not, Courtland Sutton might have even been more expensive. Getting Sutton at 9,400, I think, does make him a really good option on this slate. I do like him quite a bit. And then you got the kind of the running back situation with Denver. So we got Melvin Gordon at 8,800. Obviously, we expect him to kind of take over as the lead back for the Broncos now that Javonte Williams is done for the season. But we don't exactly know if Melvin Gordon's going to play Thursday night. He was limited in Tuesday's walkthrough, or he was listed as a limited participant. We'll definitely have more clarity after Wednesday once we get Wednesday's practice report. I would say Gordon's probably going to play if I had to guess, but it will be something to monitor. I would expect Gordon to get pretty good volume here. I mean, it's hard to tell what the Broncos are going to do with their backfield. They did sign Latavius Murray from the Saints practice squad, and they do still have Mike Boone as well. And Mike Boone's playing time has been spiking every week. So, they're going to involve those guys, I would assume, but I still expect Gordon to be the lead back. And at 8,800, I think that is still a little bit too cheap for Melvin Gordon. He's a guy that can catch passes. He did get 6 targets in week 3. I do expect him to be a little bit involved in the passing game. I would assume he gets kind of the early down work. Maybe they involve Boone on passing situations on 3rd downs. If they ever get to the goal line, I would think Gordon's probably getting the goal line work as well. So at 8,800, I do think Melvin Gordon's a pretty solid play on the Showdown slate. Obviously, we'll have to watch his status and everything, but assuming he does play and there's no limitations or anything, I do have some interest in Melvin Gordon at 8,800. We'll talk about Mike Boone. I think it's 6,200. I mean, Mike Boone, I would say if Melvin Gordon plays, I don't have a ton of interest in Mike Boone just because I think he will kind of be, he'll be the backup, obviously. Mike Boone hasn't really been involved much this season, but his snap share has been slowly increasing each week. So week 1, Mike Boone only played on 3 snaps, and then week 2, he played on 7 snaps. Week 3, he played on 14 snaps, and last week, he played the highest amount of snaps he's played all season, 19, which was 36% of the snaps. He did get some opportunity after Javonte Williams got injured in that game. I think Mike Boone's going to be involved. I just don't know if he's going to be involved enough to be worth rostering at 6,200. But if Melvin Gordon does not play, assuming there's no Melvin Gordon and no Javonte Williams, then at that point, Mike Boone probably becomes their number 1 running back, and Mike Boone at 6,200 would be a great play. So in my opinion, I think looking at this situation, it's just going to depend on if Melvin Gordon plays or not. If Gordon plays, he's probably the running back I feel best about from Denver. But if he's out as well, then yeah, for sure look to Mike Boone because he would have to step in as the number 1 running back. And again, he's only 6,200. But then you have Jerry Jeudy at 7,800. In this mid-range, I think Jeudy is a fine play. Hasn't been getting as much volume as Cortland Sutton, but Jeudy does still offer big play upside. We saw him have that big touchdown in week 1, that long touchdown against Seattle. He had a touchdown last week against the Raiders. He might only see 5, 6, 7 targets, but he's going to probably get at least 1 or 2 deep, downfield targets. And you just got to hope that him and Russell Wilson connect on one of those long balls. I don't feel as good about Jeudy at 7,800, but I still think he is playable on this Showdown slate. He's going to be on the field for almost every snap. He's their clear wide receiver 2. So I think Judy's fine. Now Nyheim Hines, he's the guy that I want to talk about. So assuming Jonathan Taylor doesn't play, I think Nyheim Hines is probably going to be the best play on the slate and probably the most popular play as well. Kind of up there with the quarterbacks. I mean, this 6,800 is going to be way too cheap for Nyheim Hines if Taylor does not play. Now, if Taylor plays, then I think we just have a situation kind of like we've had all season where Nyheim Hines will just basically be like the backup to Taylor. He'll get usage in the passing game, but probably nothing more than that. If Taylor sits, though, then Nyheim Hines might become like an every down running back. I mean, they don't really have anyone else behind Taylor besides Hines. They have Deion Jackson, but he's barely been involved. They have Phillip Lindsay as well, who I think got called up from the practice squad. He's expected to be activated from the practice squad if Lindsay doesn't play, or if Taylor doesn't play. But I don't think they really want to use Phillip Lindsay or Deion Jackson much at all. I mean, Deion Jackson's barely been involved this season. He's barely gotten any opportunity. So I expect Nyheim Hines to be kind of a workhorse back if Taylor doesn't play. And 6,800 is way too cheap for Nyheim Hines. Even in a tougher matchup, he's just going to get so much volume. He's a great pass catcher, and on DraftKings, getting running backs that can catch a lot of passes is super valuable. You want those, that point per reception, and Hines is one of those guys that can catch 6, 7, 8 balls. I would not be surprised if Taylor gets ruled out to see Nyheim Hines get 8 to 10 carries and 6 to 8 targets. That's a legit possibility. And 6,800, that's just going to make him stand out as one of the best plays on the slate. So we're going to have to monitor that Jonathan Taylor news. If Taylor does not play, I'm going to be firing up Nyheim Hines as probably the top overall play on the Showdown slate. He'll get a lot of ownership, but it'll be warranted in my opinion. And then talking about some value, so value on this slate's a little tricky. There's not a ton of pay-up options that I'm in love with, but there's definitely guys down here that are playable. You got Alec Pierce at 5,400. He's kind of been operating as the wide receiver 3 for the Colts. They've actually been playing Paris Campbell more than Alec Pierce. Last week, Alec Pierce played on 44% of the snaps. Paris Campbell played on 67%. We'll talk about Campbell in a second. Pierce has still been getting some targets, though. He has seen 11 targets over their last 2 games. At 5,400, he's a viable option, but I don't feel great about him. I think I would rather go to Campbell, who's a good bit cheaper. And then you have Mo Alley Cox at 4,800, who saw really good volume last week. Did run hot to get 2 touchdowns, but he saw 6 targets. He caught all 6 of those balls for 85 yards and 2 touchdowns. He did play on 70% of the snaps last week, and his snap share has kind of slowly increased each week. So if the Colts are going to continue to involve Mo Alley Cox more and more each week, he's a guy that could be worth rostering on the Showdown slate. Now, I'm a little concerned that his ownership might be inflated just because he had a big game last week, but he's been getting more snaps. He's been getting some targets as well, and he is a big body. He's a guy that they can target in the red zone. He's always a threat to score a touchdown anytime they get in the red zone. So at 4,800, I actually think Mo Alley Cox is in play for value on the slate. I have some interest in him. Ashton Dullin's a guy that's kind of fallen off. He really hasn't seen a ton of opportunity. He saw 13 targets through their first 2 games of the season, and then after that, weeks 3 and 4, he's just not been involved nearly as much. His snap share has gone down as well. Only played 25% of the snaps week 3, only played 29% of the snaps last week. He's seen just 4 targets over the last 2 games. If this trend continues and Doolin is basically the wide receiver 4 for the Colts, it's going to make him tough to roster at 4,600. I think he's nothing more than like a touchdown or a bust play. I don't have a ton of interest in Doolin on this slate. KJ Hamler, I think he barely played last week. He played he played 4 snaps last week. So at 4,400, KJ Hamler's kind of a tough guy to trust right now. They actually play Kendall Hinton way more than they did Hamler, and Kendall Hinton has actually outsnapped Hamler the last 2 weeks. So yeah, KJ Hamler at 4,400 is probably a fade for me. I think he's nothing more than you're just hoping he catches like a long ball. If he plays like a few snaps, you just got to hope that he catches a long touchdown. You could maybe play that on this showdown slate, but there's better values in my opinion. And then you got like the defenses and the kickers. Now, the kickers I think are solid values. Usually the kickers are pretty good to give you like 6 to 10 points. And I think on this slate that might be good enough just because a lot of these other value plays don't really stand out. So I'm fine going to the kickers here. The defenses we definitely need to talk about. I tend to avoid the defenses on showdown slates just because defenses do tend to be a little bit overowned. And defensive scoring is one that's just so tough to predict. Obviously, the 49ers had a huge game on Monday night, and they made the winning lineup. That can always happen. Defenses can rack up a ton of sacks and turnovers and maybe a defensive touchdown. I will say that this is a fantastic spot for the Broncos defense just because, for one, they're playing at home, and Matt Ryan has just been turning the ball over a ton this season. He's thrown 5 interceptions. He's been sacked a ton. He's been fumbling the ball a lot as well. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Broncos defense put up a huge game here to put up like 12, 14 Draftkings points. But if they're going to be like 50% owned, at that point, you just got to hope that I would never, even on a showdown slate, 50% for a defense is just, in my opinion, is too much. I don't care how good the spot is. As long as Matt Ryan can be somewhat content and not just turn the ball over a ton, then you probably see the Broncos defense put up 8, 9 points, which, if they put up 8 or 9 points and they're 50% owned, that's probably not going to be worth it. Now, if the Broncos defense is 50% owned and they get a defensive touchdown and they put up 15, 16 points, well, at that point, if you don't have them, kind of like Monday with the 49ers defense, if you didn't play the 49ers defense Monday, you weren't sniffing GPPs. I mean, they were in the winning lineup. You had to have them. So it's a tricky situation. For me, when it comes to defense, I tend to avoid high-owned defenses, and I think the Broncos defense will be high-owned here because it's such a good spot. But it is a scary fade, I will say that. I am fine fading defenses for the most part, but this is definitely one of the scariest defenses to fade because I think it is a great spot for the Broncos defense just because of how bad Ryan has been and how much he's been turning the ball over. Plus, the Broncos do have a good defense in general. But then you got the Colts defense on the other side. Not as interested in them. Russell Wilson's a pretty good quarterback in terms of not turning the ball over. He doesn't really throw a ton of interceptions. He'll take some sacks every now and then, but not in love with the Colts defense here. But then you got a guy like Paris Campbell, who I think is a pretty good value here. He's basically been operating as the wide receiver 2 for the Colts just as of late. Last game, Paris Campbell did play 44 snaps. He was second on the teams in snaps played, 67% of the snaps. The week before that, he played 82% of the snaps. Week before that, 86%. I mean, he's been on the field a ton. Now, he hasn't seen great volume. He's only seen 12 targets through 4 games, so he's only averaging 3 targets per game. But he's going to be on the field for 70, 80% of the snaps. He's going to be out there running routes. He's only 3,600. It's usually rare to find wide receiver 2s priced at 3,600. So I think Paris Campbell is definitely in play for value here. I think he does offer a little bit more upside than the kickers and the defenses. You could get 4 catches for 40 yards and a touchdown from Campbell, and if he does that and he puts up whatever that is, 16 Draftkings points or 14 Draftkings points, if he finishes with 14 DK points, he's probably going to be one of the best value plays, and he's going to be on the field so much the opportunity to have that type of game is definitely there. So I think one of the better value plays is probably Paris Campbell. He does stand out as a good option at only 3,600. He does stand out as just being too cheap for what his role is. And then they're just kind of after Campbell, it's just dart throws down here. Albert O, you would think 2,800 for Albert O would look really good, but Albert O played literally 1 snap last week, so it's hard to feel good about Albert O right now. He's basically been getting outsnapped by Eric Saubert. I don't know really anything about Eric Saubert, but he's been operating as the #1 tight end for the Broncos. Hasn't really been doing anything for fantasy. He's only been getting targeted like 1 or 2 times per game, but if he catches a touchdown, he could be someone worth rostering. I think if you're going to take a shot on someone this cheap, Saubert might be your best bet. You're kind of hoping that he catches a touchdown. And again, he has been kind of operating as the wide receiver one, or the tight end 1 for the Broncos lately. Kendall Hinton, I do want to mention just because he's been kind of the wide receiver 3 for the Broncos. We do need to keep an eye on his status for this game, though, because he did get sent down back to the practice squad, so they will have to re-elevate him for this game if he were to play. They'll have to sign him back to the active roster. But if he does get signed back to the active roster, I'd assume that he continues to be the wide receiver 3 for the Broncos. And again, Hinton played on 30 snaps last week, which was 57%. The week before that, 43% of the snaps. He has out-snapped KJ Hamler now in back-to-back weeks. So at $1,000, if you're looking for a punt play down here, I think Kendall Hinton will be viable, assuming he does get activated for this game. And that's probably it for value plays down here. I mean, there's some other guys you can maybe take a shot on, like Kylen Granson, just hope that he catches a touchdown. I will say that he's been getting some targets. Hasn't really done a ton with those targets, but it's a touchdown or bust play. Like Granson's okay. Jelani Woods caught a touchdown the other week in week 3. He's touchdown or bust if you want to go there. He actually caught 2 touchdowns in week 3, but there's not a ton of dart throws I feel great about. I think if you're taking shots on guys down here, you're looking at probably Saubert and Hinton as your best options. And then we can talk about, these Colts guys, I guess. So if Jonathan Taylor does not play, I'd assume Phillip Lindsay would be activated for this game, and Phillip Lindsay is only $400. Now, how much is Phillip Lindsay going to be involved? I don't really know. I still think Nyheim Hines is going to have a big role, assuming Taylor doesn't play. I think Deion Jackson would get some opportunity. Lindsay might be the RB3. He might get a few touches. He's only $400. We might get some more clarity on usage for the Colts running backs later in the week, closer to Thursday. So we'll kind of have to keep an eye on news there. It's really tough to kind of break down this situation on Tuesday when we don't have much news. But yeah, that's something to monitor. Maybe Lindsay gets some playing time at only $400. He'd be another punt play you could kind of sprinkle in. But yeah, that's it for the player pool, guys. I think we kind of talked about all the playable options, all the guys I like for this Thursday night game. It's going to be a gross one, I think. It's going to be probably a fairly low-scoring game, but could be a fun showdown slate just kind of with how many, just with how many injuries there are right now. It's going to make for some different roster constructions. There's going to be some guys that definitely project really well in this game. We'll have to see what ownership looks like on some of these guys, but it should be a fun one. I'm excited to build some lineups for this showdown slate. I'm excited to watch this game. I always enjoy watching these primetime games, even though it's going to be probably a gross, low-scoring game. I'll be tuning in. I'll be sweating out my lineups. I'll be sweating out my PrizePicks plays as well. And again, guys, if you have not signed up for PrizePicks yet, they are the sponsor of this video. You can check them out, sign up, use promo code NOAH, get your first deposit matched up to $100 when you do sign up with my promo code. Take a look at all the props that PrizePicks has available for Thursday Night Football. If you want to take a look at some of their other props as well, they do have stuff posted already for Sunday. And again, I will be sharing a couple plays that I like for Thursday night. I'll share that in a separate video that I will post on the channel on Wednesday. So definitely check out that PrizePicks video if you guys want to know some plays I like for Thursday night. But best of luck tonight, guys. Thanks as always for supporting the channel, supporting the content, watching these DFS videos. Appreciate you guys a ton. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope it helped. And best of luck on the slate, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.